Good morning, everybody. When I was asked to do and plan to do the State Industry Report this year, it's a little different than the past few years. It's kind of approach it with trepidation, and we can all say what's happening with state industry today is not very good. So what I prefer to focus on is how Georgia is positioned as a state and as a technology community for the future. So if you're expecting an economic forecast for the next 3 months, you're not going to hear that here today. But hopefully the information I provide you will be meaningful to you and something that you can take back. I do want to thank the sponsors that help to support the State Industry Report. This is a very meaningful report to the community, and we appreciate your support. So what follows is a high-level overview of a report 6 months in the making. The 176-page report includes hundreds of charts and tables that present an in-depth view of technology industry in Georgia. It includes data gathered from dozens of sources and primary research collected from more than 500 respondents to 2 studies we conducted. In many instances, we compare Georgia with the national average and 5 benchmark states, the technology powerhouses of California, Texas, and Massachusetts, along with 2 competitors in the Southeast, Florida and North Carolina. We believe the report is the most complete view of the industry available to our community, and it's available to anyone who wants it by just downloading it on our website. And also, we've provided you with CDs at your table that provide all of this information. So please take that with you today.
We're supposed to be on the slide. There we go.
In keeping with the theme of our summit, the energy of innovation, I'd like to talk about the energy of the technology industry in Georgia and present some contrasting views that illustrate where we have significant momentum and where we've experienced resistance or setbacks. In doing so, I want to take you through the life cycle of a technology company, starting with the education of the workforce, then looking at funding and the entrepreneur's journey, and then the growth of our technology sector, and finally the industry overall. Even though I'll be showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly about our industry, from a positioning standpoint, we have a lot to be pleased about this year. Technology employment has grown, establishments have increased, and venture capital funding has gone up. And where we need to improve, we're developing an understanding of the pathways to improvement. Most people know that Georgia has a distinct advantage in the young and the ready workforce demographic, the 25 to 44-year-old age group. This is a group that will lead the innovation of tomorrow. This is a group that will experiment, take risks, and bring about new and exciting technologies for the future. So what does the over 25 population look like in Georgia? 27% of them have bachelor's or advanced degrees. That puts us very close to the U.S. average, but we lag significantly behind states like California and Massachusetts. Almost 38% of the Massachusetts population over 25 have bachelor's degrees or higher. But the news isn't all bad. Georgia has experienced tremendous growth in educational attainment. The degreed population has increased by 4 percentage points since the year 2000, compared to only 2.5 percentage points in the U.S. overall. Georgia has also significantly increased its high school graduation rate. The percentage of the population without a high school diploma has dropped more than 24% since the year 2000. So this is the right kind of momentum. Yet Georgia is last among benchmark states in math scores. Not only that, Georgia ranks 49th in the nation. Although scores have improved somewhat, they're still lower today than the U.S. average in 1996. Clearly, we need to find bold new ways to invest in education if we hope to build our technology workforce with competent, skilled individuals. One advantage Georgia has over other states is relatively low cost of tuition. That, coupled with the Hope Scholarship Program, puts college education within the reach of many Georgia students. Kevin. And when it comes to technology education at the university level, we have much to brag about. For instance, Georgia Tech is ranked as the 4th best undergraduate engineering program in the nation. Georgia universities are granting more technology degrees every year. However, women as a percentage of the population of graduates is a shrinking group. In 2000, Georgia awarded more than 34% of its computer science degrees to women, but now it's fallen to 24%. And that's Georgia's part of a national trend. But in spite of the significant drop in the percentage of female graduates, Georgia continues to lead the benchmark states, and that tells us that Georgia can lead the way to make technology degrees more inclusive. Another area where women lead the way is ownership of technology companies. A survey of CorpTech's database revealed that Georgia had the highest percentage of women-owned technology companies among benchmark states. But better is not necessarily good enough. Women still only represent 4% of all technology business owners. But this is a good start. We can take heart in the fact that we are well ahead of technology powerhouses like California. Moving on to the academic R&D expenditure, this slide provides a snapshot of how much is being invested in innovation. Georgia Tech is a leader among benchmark state universities in R&D expenditure, computer science, math, and engineering. In 2007, it outspent MIT by more than $100 million. The only university to spend more was Johns Hopkins. Now to the funding of our technology enterprises, which is shown on this chart in the blue bars. The most salient point here is the enormous peak that occurred in 2000. Like the rest of the country, Georgia's technology industry has struggled to recover from the precipitous drop that occurred in 2001. But we are making progress. Technology venture capital funding has more than doubled since the low of 2005. And in spite of the worsening economy, 2008 actually saw a 5% increase over 2007. Our top funded sector is software, which is the largest technology employer in the state. This segment that includes energy, has been receiving exponentially higher funding in recent years, quadrupling from 2006 to 2007, and then growing by almost a third in 2008. It now stands just behind software in the sector funding lineup. The growth and average size of these venture deals is also promising. Although 2005 was the lowest year in the decade, it has been moving in a positive direction since then. This is how Georgia ranks in benchmark states in average deal size. Now, this may seem like a bad picture, but a closer look reveals some interesting facts. Georgia had the best growth average deal size of all these states. The average dollars per deal went from $5.7 million to $6.6 million, a 15% increase. That puts Georgia neck and neck with North Carolina and Massachusetts. But the fact is that Georgia is not getting its fair share of venture investment. The total VC funding received by Georgia in 2008 represents 0.3% of the total funding in the U.S. As shown in this chart, this statistic was confirmed in TAG's VC survey, which polled 156 firms nationwide. This finding is also borne out by the feedback we receive from our entrepreneurs. Venture capital is one of the least likely sources of funding for Georgia entrepreneurs. The most common source of funding, as reported by respondents to TAG's entrepreneur study, are personal cash and investments by friend and family. According to our sampling, angel investment is also a significant source of funding, with 66% of funded entrepreneurs stating that they received capital from this source. In fact, we found Georgia's entrepreneurs rely more on angel investment than their counterparts in Massachusetts and California. But the majority of entrepreneurs in Georgia don't receive any funding. Our study revealed that Massachusetts is way ahead of Georgia in terms of the percentage of entrepreneurs receiving funding. We also discovered that startups in Georgia don't grow as fast as in California and Massachusetts. Only 13% of Georgia respondents that had been in business at least 4 years had more than 11 employees, compared to 23% for California and 25% for Massachusetts. I think this could be a reflection on the lack of comprehensive infrastructure for entrepreneurs in our state. Funding isn't the only area that entrepreneurs are lacking. We measured entrepreneurs' access to resources in 10 different categories and came up short in 8 of them. And entrepreneurs rate our state support as poor. Entrepreneur programs scored the highest, but were only rated adequate. And then state-funded grants and state support for VC investment were rated lowest. The benchmark entrepreneurs in California and Massachusetts rated their states higher in almost every category. Now to look at the big picture, growth of the industry. This slide depicts Georgia's less than impressive technology employment growth over the past 6 years. This looks fairly dismal, but it bears pointing out that it is an improving picture, and over the past 6 years, employment growth has been getting better. 67% of technology jobs are in Atlanta, making it the 10th largest technology employer among all U.S. cities, according to the AEA CyberStates report. But continued employment growth that outpaces the national average will be necessary to maintain and improve our national ranking. The growth of Georgia's technology establishment paints a much better picture. Georgia is ahead of the national average and 4 of the 5 benchmark states. Let's take a look at where establishment growth is happening. Well, it's very clearly happening in the software and IT services, which added 420 establishments in 2007. This is to be expected. As I referenced earlier, software and IT services is the largest technology employer in the state. Telecom is second largest, but it's been losing jobs and establishments for several years, but it's still performing considerably better than elsewhere in the country. Another industry that's growing in establishments is bioscience, which not only has posted positive growth for 6 years, but it also outperformed all but one of the benchmark states. Although establishments are growing, employment was down in 2007, losing 2.3% of its jobs. But let's keep in mind that bioscience at this juncture is a relatively small player in Georgia's economy, with less than 1/10 of the jobs and establishments as high tech. Since the dot-com bubble burst, IPOs have ceased to be a significant end goal for Georgia's companies. IPOs have dwindled to single digits since 2000, and in 2008 there were 0 IPOs in Georgia. And keep in mind, these are all IPOs, technology and non-technology. Instead, M&A activity is the most viable exit strategy for Georgia technology companies, especially in the last 3 years. And we can see here that they have exploded in recent years, quintupling from 2005 to 2006. But who are the buyers? 82% of the buyers are from outside of the state. In fact, there are more international buyers than local Georgia buyers. So, many of our most successful technology companies are seeing control leave the state. But this doesn't always mean that jobs are lost. Some companies, like Scientific Atlanta, which was acquired by Cisco in 2006, are growing. Thus far, I've pointed out some of the areas where we have momentum and others where we have challenges. I'd like to talk now about where momentum and resistance meet, creating opportunity. In education, the groundwork is in place for improvement. The state of Georgia has many initiatives to help strengthen STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and math. Everything from teacher recruitment efforts, charter school launches, pre-AP exam alignment programs, end-of-course exams, and rigorous graduation requirements. These are programs that give us the opportunity to continue to progress. Georgia's Exemplary Hope Scholarship Program enables students with an average of B or better to afford tuition at the State College University. Since its inception, the Hope Scholarship Program has awarded $4.4 billion to Georgia students. Georgia universities are pumping enormous amounts of R&D funding into science and engineering. Along with funds from universities not pictured in this slide, more than $1.2 billion was spent on S&E research in 2007. And we've learned that venture capitalists are willing to invest in Georgia. In fact, 71% of respondents to TAG's VC survey said they were very likely to invest in Georgia if all the investment requirements were met. But we're not going to be able to tap into the potential unless VC firms are aware of Georgia deals. In fact, nearly 40% of TAG's VC respondents suggested, unprompted, that we need to make them aware of opportunities to invest in Georgia technology companies. And funding is a crucial need in the state. In an unprompted, free-form question, respondents to the TAG's entrepreneur survey wrote in capital and funding as their number one need. Another need identified by the entrepreneur study was access to resources. Georgia entrepreneurs have less access to resources than their peers in benchmark states. But we've also discovered that entrepreneurs that participate in technology associations have greater access to 8 of 10 categories of resources than those that are not members of the associations. This shows us that when we can organize, we as a community have a lot to offer our entrepreneurs. And this is encouraging news and should give us impetus to reach out more for the good of the industry as a whole. The Technology Association of Georgia and the state and industry leaders have shared a goal of developing Georgia into a top 5 state for technology. To achieve this objective, we need to put our efforts into 5 main drivers for industry growth. In order to increase our homegrown talent pool and attract technology professionals to Georgia from other states, we must improve our education system at all levels. We are currently below average in K through 12 education, and we can't settle even for average. We have to settle to be the best. We need to grow our entrepreneur base in order to keep those establishments and employment numbers growing. In order to do this, we'll need to provide comprehensive, systematic, and strategic support for our entrepreneurs. But we won't be able to do this without more public and private funding at all levels, from seed to angel to VC. We've seen that our entrepreneurs lack access to critical resources like business expertise, mentorship, and funding. We need to provide pro bono mentoring and community-based resources for entrepreneurs all over the state. And we need state programs to support our existing technology base in the form of funding tax credits. And we need economic incentives in order to compete more effectively on a U.S. and international playing field. It's nice when we can recruit a big new company into town, but let's not forget that American economy grows organically. Tender, loving care for existing companies is paramount. Although 2009 is sure to be a challenging year for Georgia and everyone in the country, the momentum of the past gives us solid foundation to weather the economic storm and be well positioned for the recovery in the future. Thank you.